Hey, y'all. Welcome in. My name's Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer, and we are here for your Week 18 pregame live chat. We are getting ready for Saints Falcons over at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yes, the only Mercedes-Benz building left in the NFL, and it is in Atlanta, and that's where the Saints will finish off their 2021 regular season. I don't think I need to explain to anyone watching that the Saints do, in fact, still have a chance to make the postseason. They do need to win today for that to happen, and that is not a guarantee, even if that happens. So we'll set that up in a bit. But first, I'd like to say thank you for joining our Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success pregame live chat. Bud Light has its ingredients proudly displayed on a label that's hops, barley, water, and rice. As always, the Saints ingredients are a bit more complicated, although just as good, I think. Make sure to enjoy some Bud Light today if you're in that sort of mood. But if you're too stressed out, if you just need to focus, let's focus on how the Saints can make the playoffs. First, that obviously needs a Saints win over the Falcons. The Saints are 3.5-point favorites in Atlanta. The Falcons don't have anything tangible to play for because they were eliminated from the playoffs in Week 17. But what they have to play for is, I don't think you need to give that team any extra motivation to want to play spoiler against the Saints. If this was a matchup with anybody else, you might say, yeah, whatever. The Falcons do not want to lose to the Saints ever, and that includes this season. Now, it's not as simple as that, though, for the Falcons, right? Not only would a win not improve their NFL draft chances, which will be important, their draft pick, I should say, which will be important for them as they kind of go into next season, feeling pretty good about what they were able to do in Arthur Smith's first year. It'll actually put the Saints ahead of the Falcons in the draft order. They would force the Saints to miss the playoffs, but then would end up picking behind them. So it would just add some kind of insult to injury in a season where very little has gone right for either team in terms of, what they hoped would happen versus what did happen. And the Saints still have a chance to get there. The Falcons do not. It's going to be interesting to see if the Saints get ahead in this game, if the Falcons really punch back. It feels like in a lot of these games, if you kind of demoralize the team that doesn't have a lot to play for early on, there's not much fight left. There's not much fight to come back from 2 scores down. We saw that with the Eagles and the Cowboys last night. The Eagles weren't putting out a full effort to win that game. It meant a lot more to the Cowboys in terms of the playoff seeding than it did the Eagles. And while it was close in the second half, it got out of hand really quick. I think the final score ended up being something like 51-20 something. And, that's what can happen in these games. Now, I don't see the Saints offense putting up 50 points, but, if you're not on your game against the Saints defense, you're going to get shut out. We've seen that. And, that's where the Saints want to really put this game away early on. They want to get to Matt Ryan. They want to harass him. They want to make him wonder why he's trying this hard in a game that doesn't matter. And so that's what we'll see. So, obviously the Saints need that result. If they don't get it, none of the rest matters. But if they do get it, then the game between the 49ers and the Rams, we've talked about this a lot, becomes vital, right? So the Rams, fortunately for the Saints, were unable to clinch the NFC West last week because because the Cardinals beat the Cowboys. If that didn't happen, the Rams would be clinched and they'd only be playing for whether they get the 2 seed, the 3 seed, or the 4 seed. That's a good thing for the Saints because the Rams, who are a superior team to the 49ers, also have every incentive to go out 100% win that game, knowing that a loss could mean they go on the road in the first round of the playoffs. So from a betting perspective, from a perspective of you're going to get the games that you were hoping to get, in terms of the Saints needing them, that is a huge win. That is a huge advantage for the Saints today. The Saints are the betting favorite. The Rams are the betting favorite. The Rams are also at home. So if the Saints win, the odds are in their favor. If they can do that and they still miss, whatever, it's hard to be too upset knowing everything the Saints have dealt with this season and they still get to a winning record. They still get to 9-8 and give themselves a shot. We still saw meaningful football all the way into Week 18. It wouldn't be the worst result in the world. It would be disappointing. But hey, all you can do is put yourself in a position, and that Dolphins game will come back and really frustrate people, when they look back and say, oh, wow, how could you gotten in there? But it's not only the Dolphins game. You can't blame the NFL for the Saints being in the position they're in. You know, if they had just not blown an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter to the Giants, this would also have not been an issue. So you can't put it all in that Dolphins game, as frustrating as it was. But either way, Saints still have a chance. We're talking about a game against the Falcons. You should get Ryan Ramczyk back today. He's questionable, but it does sound like he's going to give it a go. Teron Armstead, no. Mark Ingram, it does sound like he's going to get back in there. Let me just do a last check on the inactives to see if they've posted yet. They usually post about 90 minutes before kickoff. So let me double check here and make sure so I can tell you the accurate information. Stick with me. Doesn't look like the inactives have been posted yet. I'll keep checking. But, as we go in, hold on. Why is that not there? But as we go in, we're looking at a Saints team that's about as healthy as it's been all season, right? I mean, you've been dealing with injuries all year, but today you're without Teron Armstead, you're without Bradley Roby, you're without PJ Williams. Traquan Smith looks like he's going to play. He does not have an injury designation. Ryan Ramczyk is questionable with a knee injury. Mark Ingram is questionable with a knee injury. Otherwise, you should be a full go, beyond the players that are on injured reserve. So that's a good thing. The more of this offensive line you can get back intact, the better, right? You're getting Eric McCoy back. You're getting Ryan Ramczyk back. Hopefully, who knows what kind of level he's going to be at. The kind of talk all the last few weeks has been both of those guys are not going to be healthy going into the playoffs if they get there, right? But it's a question of how much can they play and how effectively can they play in the playoffs, because even just having them out there, even with just the brain they have out there in terms of just understanding how to play the offensive line, and making checks and making the right reads and getting to their blocks and getting people in the right position, that is an advantage that you have not had over the last few weeks with, guys like James Hurst, guys, Caleb Benenoch, these guys out there who have played well enough, as well as you could have hoped. But they're just not, they're not the star, offensive linemen that you have become accustomed to, and getting them out there and helping out Taysom Hill in whatever way you can, that'll be a big advantage if the Saints are able to get into the postseason. Right. So that's what we have to look at. I went on a pretty long rant earlier this week about how I think it's long past time for Saints fans to just stop just trashing Taysom Hill at every turn, right? I get it. He's frustrating to watch. But remember, this season started out with a quarterback competition. I think that it was hard for people to kind of get out of that mode, right? We kind of just went into the season saying, okay, well, we're still kind of trying to figure it out. But then, the paradigm has changed, right? When Jameis Winston went down, it stopped being about a quarterback competition. It started being about who's available, who can play, who's the quarterback. And we saw what Trevor Siemian had to offer. Now we see what Taysom Hill has to offer. If nothing else, Taysom Hill has a game that is conducive to defensive football, right? To setting up a defense to win a game. And I think it's just time. It's time that you just embraced that, right? We need to stop criticizing it and just appreciate it for what it is, which is a very good strategy for winning football games. And, I would just like to see fans get behind Taysom the way they got behind Teddy when he was in relief of Drew that year, right? Because I think you can say you want Jameis Winston to be the long-term quarterback, and he can still be the long-term quarterback. There's no reason to not root for the guy who is there right now. And, I'm hoping that there is a big Saints contingent out in Atlanta today. I'm hoping that Bobby Hebert's wish of a TV loud Who Dat chant, like a Who Dat chant loud enough in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that you can hear it on the broadcast, which would just be a sign that the Saints fans have completely taken over that stadium. And it's a fair thing to hope for, considering I don't think I don't think Georgia's football allegiances are squarely with the Falcons this weekend. I think they are far more concerned about what happens on Monday against Alabama in the national championship. And, how much energy is there to really get into this matchup if you're the Falcons? I don't know. I don't know if there is a ton of energy in that regard. Sorry, my green screen is having all sorts of issues. think my lighting's changing on me, but we'll get over it. But again, we'll reset here. Saints, Falcons, 3:25 p.m. over on Fox. Got Rams, 49ers kicking off simultaneously. So we won't know how that sets up until we get to the end here. The team was asked whether they'll be doing some scoreboard peeking. They all had different answers. Taysom Hill kind of said, yeah, we'll be aware of it. Cam said he might take a look if they're up by 50. Alvin said that he doesn't even know where the scores are listed in the stadium, so he wouldn't even know where to look. He said that in 2019, when they were in a similar situation going into week 17, because there were only 16 games that year. If you remember, it was for the top level seeding where the Saints had a chance at the bye, where there was 2 buys back then, and they needed the Lions to beat the Packers. And he knew going in that they needed the Lions to do something, but he wasn't paying attention. He wasn't looking at the score. And at the end of the game, their game finished early enough that they were able to catch the final 2 minutes of the Lions game. And they went in the locker room and they watched it, and it ended badly. And I think he kind of learned at that point. It's like, yeah, let's just win our game and see what happens. I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. I think that's the right approach, because if you don't win, it doesn't matter. But it's going to be interesting to see how those games develop, right? If the 49ers get up by 10, 15 points, it's going to start feeling real bleak. If the Saints get behind in this game, it's going to start feeling real bleak. But I think both of those teams have shown that they can, that they have the fortitude to stick out these games. Either way, let's hear from Cam really quick, because one of the really interesting subplots of this game, Thomas Morstead is the punter for the Falcons. If anyone is still not aware of that, Saints sent him a king cake this week. He said he hadn't shared it yet. We talked to him on the phone on Thursday. He said he hadn't shared it with his teammates because he was just, making sure they didn't lace the icing with X-Lax or something weird. But he is saving it for post-game. He said he'd share it after the game. So even if it is laced with X-Lax, he's fine with that as long as it doesn't happen during the game, which I thought was funny. But here's what Cam had to say about Thomas Morstead, a.k.a. the Leg.
Plays for the Falcons now.
Saints legend.
Yeah.
Once a Saint, always a Saint.
Have you
Still
paid
lives
attention to his career this season? And just how, I guess, promising is it that he's still succeeding?
I mean, he's the Leg. Moniker, the Leg. We know he's got a boom. Again, moniker, the Leg. Referred to the Leg, a.k.a. the Leg. Thomas Morstead has been a great person, a great pillar for the Saints building for longer than, at least 12, 13 years? He was here longer than I was here. And so when you think about him now donning that black and red, it's a little, it is what it is. But I mean, he still, wish nothing but the best for him, because we know what kind of man, what kind of guy, what kind of family man Timo is. For him to, be over there, it's an opportunity for him to shine. And I think he already got an NFC defensive or NFC special teams player of the week. That's great for him. But, if we get a chance, I'm definitely going to put a hit out on
him. So Cam misspoke there. It was actually Special Teams Player of the Month, Thomas Morstead. That's how good he's been in Atlanta, and that's really, really kind of an impressive thing when you think about it. I mean, this is a guy who didn't have a job to start the season. He went out and kicked for the Jets for a little while. He actually kicked with, the other punter on that roster was a kid that he had worked with at a camp and took a picture with, and he had the selfie that they then brought back. So Thomas has been around this league for a long time. He's a very well-respected guy, and it shouldn't surprise anyone that, when he's able to get back to the health that he had kind of gotten away from him the last couple of years. And I think that's a big part of what played into some of his struggles in terms of just staying on the field the last couple of seasons, and it's good to see him back. He's clearly not done. He still lives in New Orleans, and what he said was basically, I think both, the Saints ended up in a good position betting on Blake Gillikin, a young player with a really strong leg who's been very good. Also won Special Teams Player of the Month award this month. That was back in October. And Thomas has ended up in a good scenario, good situation for him. So it's cool to see. But it's weird to see it. But it's not that unusual, is it? I mean, remember Morton Anderson, obviously Hall of Fame kicker from his time with the Saints, ended his career with Atlanta, or at least spent time in Atlanta. He was actually on the field for the Homecoming game where the ball was taken off Michael Kanan's foot, if you remember that. Bobby Hebert, another guy who, Saints legend. We all know him. WWL Radio. You can check him out actually right now. He's on the pregame show right now over on WWL AM 870 FM 105.3 up until kickoff. over with Christian Garrick and Mike Tillier, and he spent time with the Falcons. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility, and it happens. It's the same thing, same kind of scenario. Red Sox players go finish their career playing for the Yankees. It happens here too, happens everywhere. But it is still interesting to see happen and to see how it kind of plays out in real time. And I'll tell you what, those Saints players, as much as they love Thomas Morstead, they want to block. They want that pump block. They want to go get it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And hopefully, and as the Saints said, hopefully he sets a career high in punt attempts, right? I guess punts, not punt attempts. That's what was on the note that they sent him with his king cake. And if you were wondering, his career high in punts is 10. So the Saints are rooting that they make the Falcons punt 11 times. Honestly, that might not be the best thing because that would mean they get 11 possessions. There's a lot of possessions in an NFL game, and usually a sign that it's a high-scoring game. So we'll see what happens. But I want to reset here. Again, this is the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success live chat. My name is Jeff Noack, WWL Digital Sports Producer. We're hoping to get Deuce in here in a few moments. He should be popping in. First, I want to throw to, what Taysom Hill said about the Saints offense, kind of how it's changed this year relative to past years. Sean Payton is an offensive head coach. He is not a guy who you would expect to just sign off and just say, yeah, let's keep it simple. Let's play defense. Let's win games 9-0. Let's do that. That is a very difficult thing for an offensive guy to do, but he has adjusted and he has figured it out. You'll hear rumors about Sean Payton going to Chicago. It's nonsense, but hey, they're out there. And that's because teams want him. It's not because Sean Payton wants to leave. It's because teams want Sean Payton. And when you see these rumors kind of circulating around, kind of think to yourself, where's it coming from? Because it's probably from that side of the equation trying to start a conversation that doesn't exist. But first, before I throw to that video, make sure if you have questions, comments, throw them in the chat. I'm going to get to them shortly. We're going to go to a break after Taysom, and then I'm going to come back and start answering some of those questions. So make sure to throw them in there. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm an idiot. Let me know if you think I'm wrong. A lot of people do, and that's fine. I like to talk about it. But first, let's hear from Taysom Hill, the Saints starting quarterback, who is trying to do something very difficult, which is win games with a hurt foot and a hurt hand at the starting quarterback position and not turn the ball over. Again, one of the reasons that I have been impressed with Taysom Hill, not about anything to do with being a quarterback, just in terms of the decisions he's making, is he hasn't turned the ball over in 3 games, right? Here's some stats. When the Saints don't turn the ball over, they are 6-0 this season. In games they do have an offensive turnover, they are 2-8. Going back to the 2019 season, they have won their last 14 football games in which they have not turned the ball over. The last time they lost a game without a turnover was that game against the Falcons in 2019, if you remember. I want to say it was week 10. It was actually the day after LSU upset, or I don't even know if it's technically an upset. LSU beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And I remember because I was out covering that game. Me and a coworker at the time, Scott Rabelais, got in a car, drove all the way back home and went straight to the Superdome. Walked in, it was about 11:55. It was right before kickoff. The anthem was playing as I walked into the stadium. And I was thinking, this is going to be great. LSU got the win last night. Coming down, watch the Saints. I think they were 7-2 at that point. The Falcons were 2-7. And the Falcons just beat them up. Didn't force a turnover. Won easily. Weirdest game I've ever witnessed in my life. I still think that the team might have been up late celebrating. That's just my assumption. But here's Taysom Hill talking about, how this offense has kind of found a way and how it's adjusted over the course of this season as things have developed.
I think one of the things that really separates Coach and his staff is they know their personnel, they know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, and they coach to our personnel. And I think every week, starting at the beginning of the week, they have a clear idea of what it's going to take to win each football game. And we talk about that from the start of the week. Here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. And this is a game where, this many points might win the game, or we might need to score more points this game. And but he puts, guys in the right situations. He calls the games that are for the right game. And I think this season, more than any other season that I've been a part of, you can see that. And we've had so much personnel change, and man, those guys just continue to change. And stay up later and later to make sure that they put guys in the right spot and they figure out the best way to win each game.
Again, I think that's a big part of what we need to appreciate as we watch these games, and how we watched, how does a team that's faced this many difficulties win games? Go 8-8, go 8-8. Period. I mean, you watch teams kind of fall off a cliff every year, right? And it's always a similar, recipe. Injuries, issues, ineffective play, poor execution. Whether it's a coach losing the locker room, whether it's a coach kind of letting go of the rope, to use an LSU euphemism there, it always seems to happen one way or another. And that's why when you look at coaching and you look at a team that never kind of just threw in the towel when they clearly could have, just think back to what the Saints were looking at going into week 14. They were starting a quarterback who they knew had a torn plantar fascia. They lost that game 27-17. That same quarterback threw 4 interceptions and hurt his finger to a point that it was not going to get better throughout the course of the season. It was either surgery or nothing. Surgery or play through it. Or just, wait it out. I think it would be 8 weeks before he can turn his finger the right way. That's the point, that this season should have gone into the dumpster. And it didn't. It didn't. The Saints found ways to win. The Saints and the Jets were not in that different of situations, other than the fact the Jets knew who their starting quarterback was. They didn't have a starting quarterback with a finger that wouldn't work. But the Saints were 5-7 at that point. The Saints were not a playoff team at that point. They won that game. They found a way. The next week, going up against the Bucs, same situation, except the team you're playing is the Bucs, is the reigning Super Bowl champions, and they found a way to win that game. That doesn't happen by accident. Sean Payton wasn't even there. It's a culture thing. It's a culture thing, and that's what you've seen from this team, and it's truly impressive. And you just hope they can get to the playoffs to really kind of show, it's not about saying, adding, it's not a Madden roster. It's not about adding up the talent levels of each team and finding a number that, is the winning number, right? It's about a lot more than that. And I think that's what we've seen each week. And we've seen all the unique ways the Saints have found to win these games. It's a narrow path. But all you have to do is find it and stay on it, right? It's easier said than done, but it's what the Saints have done 8 times. I would argue they've done it more than 8 times, and they've just gotten to bad luck in a couple more. This team probably should be, even with Jameis Winston getting hurt, this team probably should be 11-5. I'm sorry, 10-5 right now. They're not. And that's why there's this push to get into the playoffs. But, we're going to get into more of that in the back half. Again, we're hoping to get Deuce McAllister here shortly for his ingredients to Saints success. And I'm going to throw to a commercial really quick, and then we'll come back and answer some of those questions that I know have been building up in the chat. So see you in a few moments. All right, we're back here again. Jeff Nowak, WWL digital sports producer with very poor diction, as you can tell. I get talking too fast, and then eventually I have to just kind of eat a sentence and start over, and that's what you just heard there. John Madden, he taught me, RIP to a legend. The king of just eating a sentence and starting over from scratch. I always appreciate it. Sometimes you just have to, the train gets going. Sometimes you just have to derail it and put it back on the tracks the right way. And, no one showed that ability better than John Madden. But okay, so one final thing before we get into some of your questions here. The inactives for the Saints are out. We don't have the Falcons yet. They're a little delayed. But as you can, as we told you earlier, there are a few guys we knew would be inactive. You have Teron Armstead, Ian Book. Sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. I misread that initially. So this list is blowing my mind. Anyway, so Teron Armstead, inactive. Quarterback Ian Book, inactive. Running back Mark Ingram, inactive. Bradley Roby, PJ Williams, Kenny Stills, all inactive. So, a lot of those questionable guys are not out there. But Ryan Ramczyk, the guy who has been out for about a month and a half, should be out there to play. We do not know how effective he'll be. Again, him being active does not mean he's healthy. It means that he's going to see what he has. He's going to see how effective he can be with an injury we know will not get better before the end of the season. And, as we saw with Michael Thomas this season, trying to gut through injuries can be very dangerous in terms of, coming back for the next year. If you make it worse, if you do something that makes it require surgery instead of something you can rehab with just time and rest, then you open a whole can of worms. And so, you have to respect Ryan getting out there. He signed an extension. He's not playing for a contract. He could easily just say, you know what, this is not worth it. It hurts. I don't want to do it. But he's a tough guy. He wants to get out there, and you have to respect that. We'll see. I mean, he's going to be a guy to watch. Is he able to hold up? Because that's the other question. Whether he wants to gut through it or not, is he able to, to a level that allows you to comfortably put him out there and protect, the quarterback, right? Is he getting blown by constantly? Is he not holding up in the run game? Is his presence actually making the collective effort more difficult because he's not able to do the things that he's accustomed to doing? We don't know, and we'll find out a lot today, but I think it's a good thing to find that out this week rather than if the Saints get into the playoffs, finding it out against the Rams, who I am already terrified of what Aaron Donald might do. And you don't want to also be trying to figure out if Ryan Ramczyk has it next week. You want to know this week so you can make that decision next week. But he's going to be out there, so that's going to be something to watch. Let's get into some of these questions. As always, we got Jerry in here. I swear Jerry's always in here. I appreciate it. Robert, another one, always in here. Very confident Saints fans, very, very supportive Saints fans. And I think that's the motto. That's kind of the mantra that this Saints season has got to take on, which is like, why not? Why not? Why the hell not? Everything else has gone weird. Why not the Saints do something that no one expects? I don't think any team wants to see the Saints defense in the playoffs. They might feel like they have a good chance to beat the Saints in the playoffs, but no team wants to find themselves staring down a legit top 5 defense in the wild card round. I don't care if you're at home. I don't care if you're on the road. I don't care if you're in Abu Dhabi. You do not want to face that team. You do not want to face that defense knowing that you're going against a quarterback who's going to force you to beat them. And that's why I appreciate what Taysom Hill has done, because even earlier in the season when Jameis Winston was in there, I said, this team, whether they feel confident in Jameis' ability to move the ball down the field, to some extent, you have to understand your personnel and you have to understand where the talent is, and you have to play in a way that complements the defense. Now, earlier in the season, they were able to do things that didn't make that quite as extreme. But I still think at that point, it was the best way to win games. And you saw that in some of the games they won against the Patriots, right? There was not an offensive explosion, but they did enough on offense to put themselves in front, and they allowed the defense to go get the win. Same thing in Washington. Same thing with Seattle. And these were games that Jameis Winston played in, and I would argue played well in. The only game he played poorly in, I would argue, was week 2. The Giants game was weird, but that's how you should win games, and that's why when I see it kind of becoming this extreme leaning on the defense, I appreciate it, because this is something I've been hoping to see all season, and I just didn't think that it would happen this specifically. But here we go. Let's move on. Robert with that quote. I actually heard this, this isn't even just a Cam Jordan quote. This is a defensive line quote. I heard this from Shai Tuttle earlier in the season. I asked him, the defensive tackles for the Saints, they obviously have that run stuffing responsibility, but when you're in a 4-3, the D tackles have to be able to get upfield and affect the passer, and they are able to do that, and that's part of the reason they're so effective against the Tom Brady's of the world, against, to a lesser extent against Aaron Rodgers, but still, he's a guy who you want to get outside the pocket. He's a lot more mobile than a Tom Brady, especially, this age Tom Brady. But, that's what the Saints do exceptionally well. And that's why they tend to struggle, I think, against the more mobile quarterbacks, against the Jalen Hurtses of the world, right? Against even Daniel Jones, a guy who has deceptive speed and doesn't mind getting outside the pocket because he's just going to pull it down and run. You saw what happened the one time Tom Brady tried to pull it down and run. He actually got space. If he was a more nimble guy, that's a first down. That might be a touchdown, right? If you're looking at Lamar Jackson, if you're looking at Taysom Hill, a guy who gets outside the pocket and can run, that turns into a big play against the Tom Brady. That turned into a sack fumble, or it wasn't a sack, but it turned into a fumble and a huge turning point in that game momentum-wise, right? The Saints were only up 6-0 at that point. A touchdown would have obviously given the Bucs the lead. Even a field goal makes that a game where all Tom Brady has to do is move the ball to the 30, and suddenly, the Saints are tied and they have to figure something out, right? So that is a big difference. And being able to stop the run, especially on the interior, is huge. And Shy Tuttle said, I asked him about rushing the passer, and that's what he told me. He said, stop the run, then have fun. And it's true. If you can't stop the run, you have no business getting upfield because they're not going to be passing. If you can't stop the run in between the tackles, and at least force a guy to 2-3 yards per attempt, or hold a guy, I should say, then it doesn't matter whether you can rush the passer, because why would the other team be passing if they can run for a first down? And it's true. I mean, the Saints do that as well as anybody, and they've gotten burned a little this year on some zone read action stuff that really extends the defense to the perimeter of the field. And you can't stop everything. You can only figure out how to play it the best way you can. And I think the Saints do that better than most teams in the NFL, which that is just clogging the interior and finding a way. And that was not a given going into the season. I do have to say, they played the first 6 games without David Onyemata. They lost Sheldon Rankins. You're relying on guys like Malcolm Roach. And they've done it well. And you have not really seen games this season where they got run over, and that's impressive. I think it has forced them to be a little more aggressive with their linebacker play. But linebackers are the strength of this team, so that's good. Okay, let's go down. Joy. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's not, it's, again, I get why people are frustrated about, whether Taysom Hill is the quarterback of the future or not. I get that. I get being a Jameis Winston fan and wanting to be, still in his corner. But this isn't about, I'm sorry, it's not about Jameis Winston, right? I think we follow Jameis's rehab, and I think that he's going to be back with the Saints. I think that you already made him the quarterback and you're going to move on. But why is that the conversation now? It shouldn't be. And if we hadn't already seen this scenario play out, where I heard fans yelling Teddy after he did similar things, it wouldn't be as frustrating. But I have seen that, and I just find myself wondering why is a guy doing the same thing essentially not getting that level of support? I don't know. It's frustrating, because this is a team that really should be remembered as just never gave up. And I hope the fans can match that. But I appreciate that, Joy. Thanks for watching. Okay, we got a Saints fan in Sarasota, Florida. I hate to break it to you, it's like 80 degrees here today. Maybe you should come hang out in New Orleans. We had about 3 days where it got under 40 degrees. I don't even know, maybe 50. It was kind of cold. I had to turn the heat on in my house. Woke up this morning and my porch was wet again. It was literally moisture on my front porch, which is kind of a strange thing. Hold on. But hey, that's living in the South, I guess. I beat him to it. Good to hear. Glad I could answer that. Okay, Danny, who dat nation for life? Who thinks the Saints that should be could go all the way to winning the Super Bowl? I'm not going to say that. I'm not even going to answer that question until I know they're in the playoffs, right? Because it's not worth talking about until I know they're in the playoffs. But I will say, weirder things have happened. Now, one of the weirder kind of routes to the Super Bowl, to a Super Bowl title I can remember is, I can't remember what year it was, whatever year, when Aaron Rodgers won the Super Bowl, when the Packers won the Super Bowl. He's only won one. I couldn't tell you whether that was 2009, 2010. I think it was in that range. That team won the Super Bowl. They were as hot as anybody. They got to the playoffs and they won. Do you know how they got there? Do you remember how they got there? Because it wasn't because of a player on the Saints. I'm sorry, a player on the Packers. It was Deshaun Jackson. That year, the Giants and the Eagles were playing each other. The punter for the Giants that year was Matt Dodge, a name that I have no idea why I remember, but I was watching the game and I was like, hey, that's a good punter name. And so the Giants were up, double digits in the second half. I couldn't tell you the exact score. It was the final minute or so. Matt Dodge, who all season had been out kicking his coverage, he just couldn't fathom just kicking it out of bounds or kicking it to the boundary. He just kicked it as far as he could. He had to kick it at least 70 yards. The ball bounced. Deshaun Jackson actually fumbles the snap. The catch. He fumbles it, puts it on the ground, and the Giants are going upfield like, whoa, look at the ball. Let's go get it. He picks it up casually, just weaves it in and out. I think they're up 6, up 3 or 4. I don't know. They were winning the game at that point. And Deshaun Jackson just kind of backpedals along the goal line, runs out the clock, goes in the end zone. Eagles win. Why is that significant? If the Giants had won that game, Packers would have missed the playoffs. They would have never gotten in. It's a long story to get to that point. But, they call it the miracle at the Meadowlands, I think part 2, because there has already been a miracle at the Meadowlands. But if that didn't happen, the Packers didn't win a Super Bowl. Don't win a Super Bowl, whatever tense you need, right? And that's how crazy it can be sometimes, right? That team was the best team in football, or at least that's what the ring on their finger says for that season. And if not for a play that we refer to as a miracle, they wouldn't have had the chance, So if you can get to the dance, anything can happen. And, I wouldn't bet against a great defense making it really miserable for opposing teams in that setting. In a one-game situation, anything can happen. I think it's more likely they win the Super Bowl than they got to the playoffs this season at all. So how about that? Either way, like I said before, it's not a team anyone wants to play. There's always a team that represents a really bad matchup. And if that team is just a really good defense, it's a bad matchup for anybody. And so in that sense, I think if they get there, there's no reason to think they couldn't. And it's just a question of, whether the luck falls in their favor. Maybe they've gotten their run of bad luck out of the way and finally some good luck can start to happen. Who knows? Either way, at least we get to see how this plays out in week 18, and we're not already talking about the draft like a lot of teams are. That's a good way to look at it, except not really, because you're going to get a fresh start with another loss regardless. I think it is a very positive endorsement of the Saints coaching staff that they were able to get this team to 8-8 despite everything that's happened, and I don't think it's a fresh start because that 8-8 could be what keeps them out of the playoffs. If it was 9-7, they're in the playoffs. 8-8 is what could keep them out. So I don't think it's a fresh start, more like, the Lloyd Christmas. So you're saying there's a chance situation. Okay, we're going back to the Super Bowl thing. Yeah, I mean, chances are chances. I'm not going to say, when you're talking about do they have a chance, of course they have a chance. They have to get there. Any team in the playoffs has a chance. Some have better chances than others, but it's never going to be an infinity betting line, right? You're going to get odds on it. And if there's odds on it, then that means it could happen. And hey, if you do think there's a chance and you're a betting person, that's the bet I'd lay. What kind of odds are you going to get on that? They got to be pretty good. I think it's a ram check here. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why you get him back this week as opposed to next week. Even if he, a couple extra days, I don't know how a week would have changed anything one way or another. But you do want to learn that this week if you can. And if he gets out there and he's clearly not ready and they pull him, I would be surprised if you see him again next week. But that's I think that's why you want to get him out there this week. It's a long one. Let me read it. We got the 49ers number. I am here still. Yeah. We got the 49ers number. You know that I have video of Brady being so frustrated. Doesn't matter which quarterback. If it was Winston, if it was a Breeze, if it was Taysom. There's some good autocorrect. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be Breeze and Drew Brees. Taysom was supposed to be Taysom. It was the other two backups. Well, I can't remember right now, but we got his number that he was so frustrated with the Saints because it's Sean Payton. He's got him figured out right. I'm not I don't know what this is about. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Um, I think you're referring to the video of Tom Brady throwing the tablet, which if you go back and watch that video, it does not look like it was the first time he threw that tablet because it did not look like it was working. I think the final throw was the one caught on camera, and it might have been driven by the fact that he had already gotten so frustrated he broke his tablet and he couldn't even rewatch the play because that thing was trashed. That thing was not working. He had probably smashed that thing multiple times and it finally broke, and that's why he threw it anyway. But yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter whether the Saints have the 49ers number. You might be talking about the Bucks, but I mean, we've already seen it. We've seen it. We've seen the Saints go 4-0 against the Bucks in the regular season the last 2 years with Tom Brady as the quarterback. So yeah, they have this. They have the Bucks number. They didn't have it in the playoffs last year. You almost wonder if maybe they should. They're better off playing on the road. And this year, if they play in the playoffs, it will be on the road. I haven't looked at, the bracket is impossible to track right now. There's so much that could change from 2 to 7 that you can't even say, oh, if the Saints get in, they beat the Rams, they can get there because you don't know where the Bucks will be. You don't know where, that second round might be. So it's tough. But again, I think that you like the Saints' chances if they get in. It's just a matter of what they have, if they can get there. Okay, we have some strategy stuff. We haven't really talked about anything strategy-wise today, and that's just because the strategy is kind of secondary to, what we expect to see, which is, another very simple offense. You're going to try to put up points, and you're going to try to just win a low-scoring game. But no more Handsome Joe. I don't think that's a real name. Maybe Joe is, but he's over on YouTube. No more draw trap plays into an 8-man front. Get 7 out of space or work screen game to control time of possession. Yeah, the running game is tough, and you have to figure out a way to do it, right? You don't want to just run to run, but you want to run in ways that allow you to open up the offense around it. I would like to see more, misdirection runs, right? I'd like to see some more crack tosses, even the type of play we haven't seen a lot, and what we did see a lot with Breeze and Kamara, and I think that's something that Stacey to get to is just these quick little swing passes, right? Just have you line up Taysom and Kamara in the pistol, and you just have them break to the sideline. You hit them with a swing pass. You have the right tackle or the left tackle kind of shoot out and try to get that block, or at least become basically a roadblock where Kamara can go one way or the other and use that to his advantage. And you take away that box strength, right? You force them to show their sideline to sideline speed. Some teams have it, some teams don't. That's something that's going to be hard to do against the Bucks and a team like the Panthers who have a ton of speed at the linebacker position, but not every team has that speed or that awareness or that depth at linebacker where they can chase you into the flat. Now, especially if you're going against a sub package, that's a bigger thing because you're talking about a safety or a cornerback trying to get up there and make that tackle, and Alvin Kamara is probably going to make a miss. And that's you have to run between the tackles. You have to be able to do it. But I agree. I think you need to get a little more creative in your run game. Keep in mind, you can do this with Taysom too. I would like to see the Saints do a little more wildcat with Taysom off the ball. If you're going to have this really kind of compressed offense, why not just go out there with Taysom, make you set up, make you match a set defense, and then use Taysom as an H-back? Why not? If you're going with this ground and pound style anyway, might as well do it. He doesn't even have to throw a block. He just has to be there. And I think that would be a really effective way to catch a defense off guard. That's what I would want to do if I'm the Saints, and I'm just kind of embracing this. Man, we are completely on board with this win the game on defense strategy, and we just need to just pile up first downs and make their defense work. I think that'd be a good way to do it. True. I don't know how much influence he had in that game in the later stages, but Madden has now become like it's a name, but it's also slang for a digital football game. It's kind of like Band-Aid. It's a brand, but it's also just what you say when you're referring to that product. Kleenex, dumpster, all these things, Frisbee. These are products. These are names of a thing that has now become synonymous with whatever it was because it was that good. And because, the product itself was just that identifiable, or maybe just had a good name. Who knows? But Madden wasn't a thing. It's until he became that thing, and it really is. It really, yeah. I didn't even register how influential that guy was, and just all the things I did, as a young football fan and a video game nerd. But it's definitely true. All right, let's get down here. I actually, Bobby got into this too this week, and I think it's a really good point. It'll be really funny if the Saints got into the playoffs, went out to LA, and then just like beat them like 12-10. In a game the NFL does not want to see in the playoffs. Like, just straight up does not want that type of game on wild card weekend. But it would be a real sweet little revenge after the Rams didn't cheat, right? It's funny because people kind of hold the Rams accountable for what happened on the no call. Nickel Roby-Coleman made a good play. The refs didn't call it. It's not Nickel Roby-Coleman's fault. He just did what he's supposed to do, which is he's not catching that ball. I'm going to find a way to stop it. He fouled him. But there's no, it's against the rules. It's supposed to be penalized. It wasn't. But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, it does feel cathartic to be able to go out there and beat up on the Rams. Realistically, you should go up there and beat up on the refs. But they can't do that. That would be even more penalties. So, yeah, I mean, that's the revenge you can get. And that would be a pretty sweet way to do it if the Saints are able to do it. Yeah, we've talked about this. We're still evaluating Taysom Hill. I don't think I think you've already made the decision on your quarterback, and playoff games aren't going to change that. You'd love to see Taysom go out and win games and prove that he can win games because he's going to be around next year. He's already under contract one way or the other. So you want to see it happen, and you're going to continue to get better, and you're going to continue to evaluate him. I just don't think that the evaluation is in the scope of a quarterback competition. I think that's over. Anyway, I do think you have seen Taysom get a little more confident. I think you've seen him get more confident in that finger, and I think that's as big as a thing as anything. He has seemed to understand his positioning in the pocket a little better. You saw a few plays last week where he got a ton of pressure up the middle. He was able to roll out and just dump and just throw the ball to bounce. One of those plays was intentional grounding, where you have to understand where you are on the field and where the receivers are and whether you can justifiably say there was somebody in the vicinity. He did that well on one play. Brian Burns got upfield. He just kind of rolled out and chucked it out of bounds. He was outside the pocket. It was a good play. Lived to play another down, move on. I think that was the drive that they went down and scored on. But there was a drive to start the third quarter where the Saints should have gotten into field goal range. They were in field goal range. I want to say it was third down. And he rolled out. He didn't get outside the tackle box. He threw it away. They called grounding, and it was a very damaging penalty. I think it was an 18-yard penalty at the end. And, that's what you have to avoid. But I do think that he has gotten more comfortable there, and he will. He will. And it's just a question of whether he can do enough to make you feel like you can open it up a little bit. And there was another play where it was, I want to say it was third down. You ran a rub route with Juwan Johnson. He got exactly what you wanted. And it was just, Taysom needed to be able to just kind of loft a touch pass 10 yards downfield over the first line of defenders and kind of into that hole. And that's where I just haven't seen the development from Taysom, just in terms of trusting his arm for something that isn't a rifle shot, isn't a bullet pass. He needs to be able to throw a touch pass, and I just haven't seen him do it. He seems comfortable doing it behind the line of scrimmage. He needs to be able to do it downfield. And that's the development I really want to see from him, because you're going to get a lot of zone coverage. You're going to get a lot of soft coverage, and you just have to be able to take advantage of it. And he hasn't. But again, I would rather see him not throw that ball rather than throw that ball and get it intercepted, similar like what you saw in the Cowboys game. So, there's a give and take there. Let's keep moving down. We got people talking about Jimmy. It does sound like Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play today. He's hurt. He's also got a hand injury. Saints fans aren't going to, shed any tears about the 49ers having to figure out how to win with an injured quarterback. So yeah, I mean, that is what it is. But yeah, it's like that. If you remember Batman, the Christian Bale one with Bane. Says, you've merely embraced the dark. We were born in it. Yeah, that's kind of how it feels for the Saints right now. Like, oh, you have your quarterback has an injured finger. Hell, that must be very difficult. I'm so sorry for you. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Have they? Yeah, this is an honest question. I haven't actually followed like that series. I need to, let's see. What did the first game this season go? So the first matchup this season came. Yeah, the 49ers won 31-10. So that is a fair statement. That's definitely true. Jimmy Garoppolo in that game, 15 for 19, 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. Deebo Samuel. Jeez. Deebo Samuel. Man, what a player. What a player. He's basically if Alvin Kamara was a wide receiver, right? It's the opposite. And I felt the same way about Kadarius Toney in the draft. But moving on, I think that's the thing. The Saints should win this game because the Falcons don't have anything to play for. That's not the case with the 49ers. That's not the case with the Rams. So it's a real game. I would actually, this is probably going to come off the wrong way. I would almost rather, as a football fan, be watching the Rams 49ers game than the Saints Falcons game. But, I have to because it's my job. But that Rams 49ers game, that's fascinating. I would love to watch that game. But, obviously I'm going to watch the Saints game. I'll have the other one in the background and I'll keep track of it. But I mean, that's a hell of a game. That's a great way to end the season. That is what the NFL dreamed of when it added an 18th week, is 2 teams, one competing for the, obviously if they were both competing for the division, that would be great too. But these teams, the Cardinals are still competing for the division. The Rams are still competing for the division. And the 2 seed, the 49ers need to win to get in. I mean, that is a dream scenario for the NFL. And, as much as frustrating as an 18th game feels, it's the only way the Saints got in the playoffs or get in the playoffs. So if this was a 17-week season, the Saints would be getting ready for the draft right now. So keep that in mind. We're talking about Peter North for some reason. I'm going to move on. Yeah, this is a good point. The Saints are playing very well on the road. Bizarrely well relative to how they've played at home. They've won 2 games at home this season, and the math is pretty simple there. They've won 6 of their 7 road games. The only road game they lost was to the Panthers. They lost home games to the Giants, to the Falcons, to the Bills, to the Cowboys. Am I missing one? I probably am, but we'll move on. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything you can say about a team that has a chance to surprise some people in the playoffs, you have to be good on the road because wildcard teams have to play all their games on the road. And the Saints have done that as well as anyone. They spent the entire first month of the season on the road. They're comfortable on the road. So that's not going to be a factor, I don't think. The factor will be, if they end up having to go to Green Bay and it's 20 degrees, I don't think that, I think the qualities of that are a bit overblown for a team that needs to win ugly anyway, but it's still not a scenario where you feel super confident in a warm weather team going to play in the snow. So that's the one road scenario where you make me a little nervous, but yeah, I mean, well, this is why you'd bet that game, right? This is why you'd take that line. And it's not because, you're going out huge on a limb saying, oh man, I think the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl. It's because you're getting crazy odds, right? You could put a $20 bet on the Saints to win the Super Bowl. And, I mean, let's look it up. So the Saints are currently going off. Oh, hold on. Why can't I find this? Thought this would be easier. There we go. So the Saints are currently going off at plus 15,000. I mean, so let's see. Let's put a $20 bet into that. $20. Yeah, that $20 bet pays out $3,000. It's like betting on Joe Burrow to win the Heisman, right? It was really obvious when it was really obvious. But in the beginning of the season, preseason, you were talking about plus 10,000, plus 15,000. Yeah, that's massive. Those are massive odds. And, it might cost you $20, but that's why the bet is worth it, because it only costs $20 to get a chance to win that much, And if you can do that while also rooting for your team, that's the bet I take. It's not the smartest bet in the room because you're probably going to lose $20, but it's also a pretty small investment to be like, hey, if the Saints win, I win, And if the Saints lose, hey, I would have probably spent that on beer anyway. But yes, I would take that bet if, not because I think it's a great bet, just because I think those odds are so good, so I don't know if good might not be the word, so lucrative that it makes sense. How many, what other opportunities do you have to win, to turn $20 into $3,000 in any context? You don't, and if you have that money, a lot of these sites are offering free bets now. If you're not a person that gambles and you can get like $100 free bet and you can throw it on the Saints plus 15,000 win the Super Bowl, and then it happens and you feel pretty good about it. Yeah, anyway, that's my take on that. Yeah, I think that by bootleg, I think you're referring to like designed rollouts, which I agree. I don't know if bootleg, a bootleg is a little bit different, but I want to see them kind of move Taysom's launch point. I think they did a good job of that, in some of the games they've won later in the games in the second half, and some of the drives that have extended, they've gotten him outside the pocket. And I think using his legs and giving him kind of that option, it's not technically an RPO, but whenever you get Taysom to the edge of the field, it's always going to be an RPO, because if there's nothing there, he's going to run. So in that sense, it's still kind of a run option, because he always has a threat to run. And if he gets to the edge of the field and there's nothing open downfield and there's a lane, he's going to take off. And that's where you gain that advantage that you might not have in the middle of the field, because he's trying to be a pocket passer. So yeah, I do think they need to do a little bit more of that. All right, let's see. Let's see if I can make sure I get all the comments. So you guys have been throwing in a lot of comments here, so just catch it. No, it will not be here. This is just a live chat. This is not the game. You have to check out Fox for that. If you have an antenna, you can get it there. You can also stream it through the Saints app. I think you'd need a cable provider to do that. But yeah, it will not be here. You'll have to find a way. But hey, if you got about an hour, if you run out to Walmart or somewhere, anywhere close, they sell the antennas for like $5, and you can get HD over the air. It's free. TV's free. Most people forget TV's free. That's how I watch it, because I like being right up to, streaming. You're about a minute behind, and moments throughout the game get ruined by my phone popping up. So I like to be right on the cutting edge of this old technology. That's how I watch it. So that's what I would recommend. Or, if you have TV, you can stream it there. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, and if they have to go to Green Bay in the winter, or in the snow and 20 degrees, you'd want to be a defensive team in that context. So that's not the worst case. Correct. All right, I think that's it. Okay, we got one more. How can Hill be a pocket passer when the pocket collapses so fast? Last game, released in about 2.5 seconds from collapse. Yeah, and that's been a struggle. And it was a struggle for Jameis. It was a struggle for Taysom. It was a struggle for Trevor. And it's not, the Saints came into this season with the offensive line being probably their biggest strength. There's just nothing you can do when guys get hurt. The fact that they lost 4 out of their 5 starting offensive linemen and won a game last week, I think that's pretty telling of, just how deep that offensive line group is and how good they are coaching these guys up. But yeah, you get Ramczyk back today, you get McCoy back today, so you have at least 3 of the 5 starting linemen you wanted to bring in to start the year. Andrews Pete is not coming back. I still think they're holding out hope for Teron Armstead to get back on the field maybe next week, with a week off to rest if they get to the playoffs. But yeah, it's tough, and that's why you have to be a little creative with how you do things, and why you have to go out of your way to focus on ball security and make sure you're doing the right things there. But yeah, it's tough. It's not going to be easy for any quarterback playing behind an offensive line that is just in shambles, which is what was the case last week and what's been the case a lot of this season. But, I think Taysom gives you a good chance to at least do some things that, a less mobile quarterback wouldn't be able to do. Yeah, I thought his game last week was actually pretty solid. There was a few bad moments, but just when you kind of look at like the broader picture of it, I thought it was, it was fine. I mean, he had that miss to Juwan. He had that bad grounding. Those were only the 2 like real big mistakes where he didn't make a decision he should have made, or he made a decision that he shouldn't have made, that sort of thing. There was that interception to Marquez, or there was that near interception to Marquez that, I think that's a miscommunication. There was another one to AK where I just don't think they were on the same page, and that's something you have to iron out. I don't know if that's on the quarterback or not. It's tough to know who screwed up, but one way or another, it's on the quarterback because they have to make sure that they get it ironed out. So it doesn't matter who screwed up. It's on the quarterback to make sure it doesn't happen again. And those are the types of plays. I think that Taysom actually got that throw to Kamara right. It was just a question of, did he not have the information correct in the huddle, or was it a read play that Kamara just read incorrectly? Because if you go back and watch it, if Taysom throws that ball where Kamara is opening to, it's either a blow up and AK is getting hit hard, which you don't want, or it's an interception, possibly for 6 points going the opposite direction. So you want AK to open the opposite way. And I don't know if this was a design issue or if it was a read or if it was communication, one way or another. You got to get that. If Kamara opens to the outside, that's an easy completion, and it's probably a first down. He might get a touchdown if he fights his way into the end zone. And it's just the type of thing that you get over time. They were clearly looking at different things. But I thought that he played reasonably well. He played a lot better in this game than I thought he played against the Bucs. And, we'll see how he does today. Okay, but anyway, doesn't look like we're going to be getting Deuce in here, unfortunately, but I do have Deuce from earlier in the week talking to Bobby. I thought their conversation was really interesting, so I queued it up. I'm going to toss it to you here at the end. We'll come back, and we will clear out. We're about an hour away from kickoff. And here's what here's what Bobby had to say.
You want to know something else, Bobby, about Atlanta right now?
Tell me.
They have not beaten a team with a 500 record this year.
Hello? Okay, that's not an opinion. That's a fact.
They haven't beaten a team over 500 this year. Here's the thing. If Kyle Pitts, who is dealing with a hamstring injury, does not play, I don't see how Atlanta has a chance. He is, I think, one of the only, he and Mike Ditka.
Yep. That's
rookie tight ends that have went over 1,000 yards. We're talking about, not in a long season. We're talking about in a regular 16-game season. That's what he's been able to accomplish, and he's done the majority of this without Ridley being the receiver outside. So I think that you will get an effort out of Atlanta, but I don't know if it will be a good effort out of Atlanta. They will want to beat you. They will say everything right publicly and correctly. But at this point, what does Atlanta have to truly gain outside of saying, oh, yeah, we knocked New Orleans out? But guess what we did by knocking New Orleans out? We would actually have a better draft position than the Atlanta Falcons if they were to beat us on Sunday.
Right, and they're thinking of the future. I mean, look, the one thing, Deuce, I got to give Arthur Smith credit because they were 4-12 last year, so they're optimistic after 1 year under Coach Arthur Smith. Now, the one thing, if it's close, they've done a pretty good job. They did that against the Saints. They are 7-2 in one-possession games. So that's a real positive for the Atlanta going forward. Because, games are close. And one-possession games, they're 7-2. That's hard. That's a good accomplishment.
That's hard to do in this league.
Well, you're able to close, and that's what you're able to do when you think about it from that standpoint. I think also, though, Bobby, I mean, for me, when I see them, they've got to clean up their cap situation, and then they've got to hit on some draft picks.
But yeah, there's Deuce. You know, and I think he raises a good point. Yeah, it's like in close games, this is a team that plays well, and but they have been blown out. Their point differential is wild for a team that has a decent record. Look at this real quick. Their point differential, the Falcons. Let's see. Hold on. Stick with me. 7-9. Okay, so the Falcons are 7-9. The Vikings are also 7-9. The Falcons have a negative 100, a minus 136 point differential. That means they have been outscored by 136 points in their 9 losses compared to their margin of victory in their 9 wins or in their 7 wins. The Vikings, who are also 7-9, minus 21. You know, in 500, you should be about closest to even. The Saints are plus 19. They're a 500 team. They actually have a positive point differential. Look in the AFC, the 7-9 team there is the Browns, minus 13. The Falcons are minus 136. That's nuts. That means they're getting blown out in their losses, and their wins are close. And you know, that's just a sign of a team that just doesn't have it all put together. You know, the Saints, they had one like real blowout this year, and it was against the two, I guess you could say, the Eagles and the Bills. Panthers game was reasonably close. Even the Eagles lost. It was a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. It wasn't a blowout. But to go minus 136, you are getting trucked in the games you lose. And that's what the Saints really should be looking to do today, is just stick it to them. Don't drag this out. Don't, just come out hot, come out firing. You know, that's the thing is, people talk about how slow and how plodding this Saints offense is. That's only been in the second half of games that they were ahead in, right? You know, and even the Bucks game, they got ahead because they were aggressive downfield. They scored the 2 field goals in the first half on long passes to Marquez Callaway. You have to be opportunistic and you have to take those chances. Once you get a lead, you have to be smart. Oh, you know what? Look, we got, looks like we're getting Deuce in there. I'm going to give him a second to set up, but we will get Deuce after all. Which is good because, you know, I'm the one who's been screwing up the feed the last couple weeks. So we got those technical issues ironed out, and we're going to get him in here. Deuce, how you doing, man?
Doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing good. My camera's a little off to the left, but we'll stick with it. So Deuce, glad we can get you back. It's been a couple weeks since we talked to you. You know, what are your overall thoughts on the game that we're about to watch in a little under an hour?
Well, it's been a wild Sunday already, and when you look at some of the early games, it's probably something that you can expect with us as well. And for the Saints, they have to be able to control what they can control, and that's really taking care of your business. Obviously you're following what's going on out west because that affects you as far as playoffs are concerned. But for the Saints, I think the formula doesn't really change. It will help to get Ryan Ramczyk back. I don't know if you will have him for a complete game, and I think that will be probably more so by design, but it definitely helps. And, Davenport is available as well, and his presence alone will impact you in a positive way also.
For sure. And so, obviously you played a long time in the NFL. You were a part of these games where one side, it means a lot more to one team than the other. What is when you're that team that has that kind of standings pressure, does it change your approach? Do you kind of have to look at it a little differently and to kind of force yourself to forget about all the other things going on?
Well, I think it's when it's a rival, then that, hey, look, they're going to be in it for the most part. If you go up, 14, 17 points on them, then you may say that, hey, look, they'll quit at that standpoint. But, offensively, we haven't been that fortunate to be able to go up on a team like that in a long time. So for the Saints team, you have to figure that, hey, look, we're going to have to fight and compete for at least, 4 quarters. And I think that's what you have to be ready to do.
Yeah, I mean, competing is basically all the Saints have been able to do all season is find a way. You've been obviously as close to this kind of 17-game run as anybody. Can you remember a season that's just had this many weird pitfalls and issues and starting away from home and all this? Or is, it just feels like this season has gone by quickly, but it's also taken forever somehow.
Well, it's taken forever just because you've dealt with so much. And I think that's where it really, has affected you, but it's made you stronger as a unit. And, hopefully that's something that they can definitely rally around.
Gotcha. All right, Deuce. I'll let you go first. How are you feeling? Do you feel confident? You think the cards are going to finally fall the right way for the Saints in these kind of Week 18 matchups?
I'm thinking they will fall the right way for us, and so we just have to take care of our business, and we'll see, what happens out west for us. But I feel good about that one as well.
All right, Deuce. Well, thanks for popping in. Good luck on the call.
Thank you.
All right. Peace, man. All right. And then we had it. We got Deuce in here. Again, the last few weeks, I do apologize. There's been my issues that we've had some trouble with getting the links and whatever, but we got it sorted out. Deuce got in here. Great. You can check him out, him and Mike Haas on the call starting at 3:25 p.m. WWL AM 870 FM 105.3. Again, this is the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success live chat. We're going to be hopping off here shortly. Make sure you check out the final half hour, 45 minutes of the pregame show if you haven't already over on WWL AM 870 FM 105.3. My name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer. I have one more parting gift for you, and that is a pretty solid Stan Verrett troll job. You probably know who Stan Verrett is. New Orleans native, ESPN anchor. Came on WWL earlier this week and talked about, the wide receivers. He wants to see more. Bobby is not as confident, but he had a good line for the end here, and I'll let you listen to that.
Sean Payton, he's been here a long damn time. A freaking 100 games, that's a lot. All I know is under Sean Payton, when we allow 20 or fewer points, the Saints are 92-8. Well, I don't care if we play in Atlanta, we play in the Rams. Come on, defense, be unbelievable, be awesome. 20 or fewer points, we win 92% of the time.
And he figured out the 92% stand without a calculator.
Yeah.
All by himself.
Okay, 92-8. I guarantee you, if our defense kicks ass, we got a chance. I know it.
Well, I need to see a little bit more from the receivers.
The receivers suck.
They got to help Taysom. I mean, Callaway did a little something Sunday, but Deontay Harris and Traquan Smith and Lil Jordan and
whoever,
those guys got to make some plays. I'm not saying they have to go out and dominate, but they got to make some plays, and Taysom's got to get them the ball. Because if you have the threat of Kamara always there, and the production that he's going to give you, and then the attention that he's going to get on plays when he's not involved, and Sean Payton does a good job with the eye candy, moving Kamara around, distracting the defense, and then going somewhere else. When he goes somewhere else, if they can complete passes downfield and make the DBs have to be honest, then that's going to create room for Taysom to get out and scramble. But the receivers, that's the key. I think the key is the receivers. They have to make plays.
Well, that's a lot of hope there, Stan. I'm just telling you. No, the one thing I could tell you, and the NFL would not like this, because we all want to be entertained. We like a lot of points, like Patrick Mahomes and all, like 30-something. I would like nothing more than we win, the Rams win, then we go to Los Angeles and win freaking 12-10. We kick a bunch of field goals. We kick 4 field goals and win 12-10 because our defense is kicking ass. Now, you might say, what are you talking about, pie in the sky? Oh, that ain't okay. Shut out Tom Brady 9-0. We just won a game. That's not an NFL score. 18-10. Think about that. Right. It might be in the teens as long as the Saints win, Stan.
But I hope that the team is not having the conversation we're having right now. I hope they're squarely focused on Atlanta.
Yes, amen.
Because for the 12 legitimate Falcons fans that are going to be there, this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah,
this is their Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Stan Verrett, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks.
And there you have it, Stan Verrett. Great take, by the way. Great take, and he's right. Sean Payton, is very good at kind of getting the looks he wants. It's just a matter of the receivers making plays. And for the quote unquote 12 legitimate Falcons fans that will be at the game today, this is going to be important to them, and he's not wrong. But that's it from me. Again, this is the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success pregame live chat. You heard from Deuce McAllister. You heard from Stan Verrett. You heard from all these guys. You heard from Cam and Taysom. We're ready to go. Saints, Falcons, 3:25 p.m. Check it out. WWL, AM 870, FM 105.3. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it when I see that subscriber number go up, because it indicates to me that people are appreciating what we're doing. And I try to look at the, what videos are drawing subscribers and go from there, so that's always a good indicator. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure to subscribe. You get notifications when we go live, things like that. If you're watching somewhere else, the channel is right there. You can also find us if you just search for YouTube WWL Sports. We'll pop up. Again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. That's Nowak. Follow us on Twitter at WWLAMFM. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. And make sure to check out the latest Saints headlines and news and notes from around New Orleans and Louisiana at WWL.com or Odyssey.com/WWL. Again, thanks for everybody for watching, for dropping in a comment. Really appreciate all the engagement. Makes these a lot of fun. I always enjoy doing these. And, let's see what happens. I think it's like Deuce said, I think this is the day the Saints finally get a little bit of luck to go their way. But yeah, peace, y'all. Who dat?